life can hit like a sledgehammer. But guess what? We hit back harder. Welcome to Affirm That Sh. Somehow I thrived. I'm Jennifer Rogers, your no BS guide to turning life's toughest moments into badass victories. Ready to flip the script? Let's affirm that life can be a bitch, but somehow we thrive. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Affirm That Sh. I have a question for you. Have you ever been so comfortable in your income that you did not think any disruption could affect you? We've got a steady job, we've got a steady paycheck. Maybe we're living paycheck to paycheck, but we know when it's coming, we know how much it is, and we know how to plan ahead. But what happens when life decides to throw you that shit curveball, knock you off your feet, not only take you out of the game, but remove you from the team completely? How would you come back? How would you overcome? How would you rise above and start kicking ass? Today, we're going to talk to Lisa Robinson, someone who was in that very game, and someone who decided that she wasn't going to sit back and just receive what was given to her. She was going to take life, and she was going to take money, wealth, and her smarts and change the way she led herself and others. Would you have the power to do it? Could you own your own voice? Could you speak up? I know you can. I'm going to ask you to join me in saying affirmations that lead right into Lisa's story. If you have the space and the moment to do so, I ask you to enter a state of calm, to close your eyes, and to repeat these 3 times with me. And again, I encourage you that if you are driving, to please not do this while you're driving. Wait until you're home. Wait until it's safe for you to do so. But here we go. Today's affirmations. We'll say them 3 times each. And when you're ready to say them more, I invite you to come back and do so. The first one, I do me first. I do me first. I do me first. I speak unapologetically. I speak unapologetically. I speak unapologetically. And our last one, I am the one. I am the one. I am the one. Stay with us, because after this break, Lisa is coming on to rock your world.
Imagine a space where you let go, where the clamor of the world quiets and you meet your truest self. At Yukio, through sound vibrations, Reiki, and the wisdom of tarot, we help you release what no longer serves you, align with your energy, and renew your spirit. Begin your journey back to yourself today.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, thank you for having me. And oh my gosh, the introduction.
Thank you.
That just warmed my heart. I was sitting here smiling the whole time.
Girl, your story is amazing.
Thank you.
And like most of us, we've gone through loss of income. We've gone through that Can I talk about money? Should I talk about money? And you've said it before, we want to get away from the taboo of it. So today with your story, what I would like for you to do is to walk us through that shit. Where were you? And when did that shit get thrown at you for you to come alive and say, it's time to make the change. It's time to own my voice. And it's time to step up to the plate of being this badass that I know I am and that I own. So when you can catch your breath, take it away, sister.
I love you. Well, I mean, first of all, I grew up in a broken home. So for the record, let's everybody know I did not come from money. Okay. Um, money wasn't discussed growing up, other than we don't have it. We're broke. Money doesn't grow on trees. I grew up in a broken home where my father wasn't always there, and he didn't contribute, right? As most parents who don't live apart, they do contribute. Um, so a lot of that was taken with me. I didn't realize it until later. And then much later, and just going fast forward to getting married, and things out of our control would happen. And foreclosure, 2 short sales, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, excuse me, 2 foreclosures or short sale, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, all happened before I turned 40. And my credit being ruined more time, I feel like it's more times than I can count. That's not true. More repossessions. And then I'm working corporate. I'm really good at what I do. I have one child at the time who's struggling in school. We don't know why. And I'm working 50 hours a week, and I'm barely making ends meet. Okay. Really let that sit in. I just made enough over that I didn't qualify for food stamps or those type of assistance. I did qualify for the state, the Medicaid insurance for my from my daughter then, and then my second daughter. And then, I'm working, like you said, that paycheck, okay, I'm barely making ends meet, but I know what's coming in. I know what's due. I know what's coming. And then all of a sudden, the world shifted. I made it through several layoffs in that corporate that I worked for. And then all of a sudden I didn't. And at that time I had 2 daughters. And y'all, honestly, I felt like my world at that time had just, opened up from under me, right? I was already barely making ends meet, right? I was already working overtime just so I could. And, that was before we have all the stuff that we have, the Lyft driving, the Uber, and all these extra things that you can do now. We didn't have that then. Just understand that's how far we've come just in the last, I don't know, 8 years. And I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. And at the same time, I kept hearing a voice I was needed at home. I kept hearing a voice saying it was now or never. And the voice got louder, and to the point where I couldn't ignore him. And I was like, you know what? I haven't taken a straight week vacation, and I don't know when. So I'm going to take a week, and I'm just going to enjoy being able to pick up my girls from school, because I could rush and take them to school and then get to work, but I was never able to pick them up.
Mm.
Never got to sit in the car rider line. And now I have to check myself instead of saying I have to go get in the car rider line. I say I get to. And sometimes I still have to check myself on that, because it wasn't so long ago I didn't get to.
And isn't that honestly a treat? And it's
Mhm.
something, like you're saying, that's taken away from us when we are having to work so much overtime. And it's
Mhm.
those small things that we take for granted sometimes. And
Mhm.
I can't imagine how your girls felt when mom was able to pick them up from time to time.
Oh, they celebrated like for that first week that I did selfies of me sitting in the vehicle picking them up. I mean, they were like happy. Um And then I made the decision that I wasn't going back. And one of the reasons why I made the decision is I really want to say within those first 2 weeks, I noticed something. I didn't have as many migraines. And migraines were something I lived with, like, constantly. Um, and then within the first 3 months, I noticed I didn't have to take the Excedrin tension headache as much, the medicine as much. Within the 6 months, the entire tension of in both sides of my neck was completely gone, and I was able to turn my neck. So noticing those things within that first 2 or 3 weeks made me decide. It was first 2 weeks, made me decide, okay, you know what? It is now or never. I don't know why I'm needed at home, and I'm gonna go for it. Now, understand, at that time, all I was deciding is if I was gonna barely make ends meet, it was gonna be on my terms, and I was doing it from home so that I was with my girls more instead of making someone else rich. That was it. That was it. I did the thing that most would have to do. I got on food stamps. I had to go and ask for assistance to provide gifts for my kids for Christmas, but I made the decision, and within that first year, it grew, but it grew so much that at the end of the first year, I found myself still back struggling and I couldn't figure out why. And that's when I was like, okay, Lisa, if this is going to work, you got to do something. Otherwise, you're going to have to use plan B. You're going to have to go back to corporate. So we've got to take charge. We've got to figure out what will work and why this isn't working. And that's when I told you, I felt head first. I tipped over into the money mindset, and I feel like someone flipped me and made me go head first in.
It was that voice,
And
girl, that voice that was
I know
there. It
that
says,
was
listen
literally
to
me.
me.
I said, nope, boom. I was like, I'm going to kick you in the butt and make you go down it. um, and doing that, it made me realize that the way we think about money from generations back to now, it affects how we manage it. It affects how we spend it, how we don't spend it, how we save it or how we don't save it. It affects everything. They go hand in hand. And when I started doing that work to shift that mindset and shift my relationship with money, I then looked and said, okay, traditional budgeting doesn't work, period. I don't care. It doesn't work because it's not taking so many different things into account. I need something that's going to make this work and that I know what's going on with my money and I'm in charge so that I'm not a statistic again, right? And I started reading books, and I read, for business people, I read Profit First. And then I remembered back in the day, the envelope system before we had debit cards and ATM cards. And then I read another book, and I basically researched the different types of quote unquote budgeting. And I pulled out the things that I liked of each,
Yes.
and I meshed them together. Because I didn't like all of the things of the percentage one. I didn't like all the things of the envelope. The envelope technically wouldn't work where we got bank accounts. And I didn't like all the things of, going to the zero. I like the concept of having every dollar allocated, every dollar assigned. And I needed, okay, what can we do to make it work in the real world, not just for me, but for other women too? And that was how I came up with my money roadmap. And it's a dashboard. And that's what we do. I wanted to be aligned with the values, goals, and desires. And it got tweaked over the last 8 years, right? And it works. If we use the system, how it's built for you, because it's built for each person, it works. I now know what's going on with my money. I now know where the money is going. Is it always perfect? No. Does life still happen and knock me sideways sometimes? Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, Jennifer, you and I talked about this. This past year has been was a difficult year for my business, and there were things that were out of my control. And I also knew what I needed to do. And because I have the plan I can go and look and say, okay, what can I utilize to help me get through this and navigate this so that I'm still coming out on top and I'm not being knocked completely backwards.
And Lisa, I want to go back just a minute because you were so vulnerable in sharing. I was that family that was working the 50 hours. I was doing what I had to do. And now I'm in a position where I need the government assistance. And I think there is such a stigma around, or a preconceived notion for those that maybe have not been on any assistance, of, oh, well, they just don't want to work. And then put whatever excuse you want behind it. But that's not true. Life kicks you in the ass, and it's unaffordable. Things are so expensive. And we can say they're so expensive today. But if you look at every generation has gone through some sort of money hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those that have applied for state assistance, have received state assistance, or maybe they're waiting to find out if they're qualified for state assistance, how can you help them? What words can you give them to release that feeling of guilt or shame, and of acceptance, and that this is where you need to be right now?
I'm gonna share first. Um, I had a lot of guilt and shame. I beat myself up that even though I was going to start the business and I wasn't going to have the migraines, I I literally beat myself up that I had to go to the state and ask for help to feed my kids. That is like it's probably one of the worst feelings a mom can have, next to y- my oldest was in hospital when she was 6, and they were telling me she wouldn't get enough oxygen to her brain. She had um she had pneumonia in both her lungs. So next to that, it's probably the worst feeling in the world. I mean, your kids are the most important thing. And one of the things that got me through is I remember several people going, "Up, there you go. You're never going to make it now. Once you get the state assistance, you're never going to get off. You're just going to sit on your couch and you're going to milk it." Really? Do you really think that's what everybody does? And apparently, you're right. That's what society truly believes, right? And, one of the affirmations was, "I do me first." And that's one of the things, when you said it, that was one of the things that came to my mind, was when I made the decisions, it was, I'm going to do me first. What right now in this moment, what is necessary for me to do to take care of me and my girls? And right in that moment, it was getting food stamps. And for the first year of my business, that's what helped me be able to put money aside for all the other stuff to be able to pay the bills and build the business, was those food stamps. I'm not going to lie about it. It was a saving grace. And I also had the worst thing anyone can tell me is you'll never do something, or you'll never be able to do something, or you won't get off of it. Because they haven't met me or don't know me very well. And I had a goal. I was going to make sure within the first 4 years that my business was where it could be so that I could come off. Period. I didn't know how at that time, but that was the goal. And I did it in 3. The whole point, though, is when you're there, don't listen to anybody. If they're not in your shoes, looking at what you're doing and the bills that you're paying, and the stress that you're under, and if getting food stamps will help you be able to move forward to where you're able to get out of that struggle, even if it's temporarily, even if it's 6 months, even if it's 4 months. Y'all, I'm going to be honest, because my youngest qualified for Medicaid when she was in elementary school, even the 4th and 5th and 6th year in business right after COVID happened, because she was on the Medicaid before, because of the adjusted gross income, they were sending certain kids those cards.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a lot. I think one year she got 200, one year she got 250, and another year she got $125. So still free money. I wasn't expecting it, by the way. It came in the mail. It was addressed to her, and I opened it, and there it is. if it's going to help you move from point A to point B with less stress and help you move forward, then ignore every single other damn person out there because they're not in your shoes.
They're not. And I think, when thinking about the affirmations for you specifically in your story, it brought me back to where I went through. I had applied for commodities, and instead of food stamps, I had applied for commodities through our tribe, and I was declined. Like you, as a single mom of two, I was declined, and my income over was $6.
Yeah, my income over the first time I applied was by like $20. It wasn't much.
It's not much, and
It
that
wasn't much at all. It
threshold
was like,
is
really?
hard. And exactly, and when I met with the advocate or the caseworker, whatever their appropriate title is, I said, $6. You expect me to do what I'm doing, because you have to turn in all your expenses, right? So you look at this and you said, okay, Jennifer, you have $6. My response was, I can't even buy a pack of hamburger meat and a gallon of milk for $6 a month. And so that I speak unapologetically is where that hit me, because there's
Mhm,
so many that would say, okay, I'm declined. There's nothing I can do. And I'm telling you, use your voice, speak
mhm.
up. What is there? You're talking about these cards that your girls received. And for the most part, during COVID, many of us received some sort of
A lot of
government
us did.
assistance.
A
We
lot of us
all
did.
we
Yeah, we all
received,
did.
a stipend and things like that. Now, there is a difference from those generational families, right? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about using resources and not receiving just what you're given, but receiving what's available to you to grow out of your shit. And so
Right.
you lived through that. So you've developed this money mapping mindset, and you are on a trajectory that is upward, that's building that bank account, and not just for yourself, but for others. So
Mhm.
walk me through now the other side of your shitstorm. How are you successful today? And how are you bringing other success through their money mindsets?
That would be I speak unapologetically, and I'm the one. Is I decided that I'm the only one that can change my situation. I'm the only one that I can depend on to at least make that decision and start changing my situation. And when you realize, oh, hey, there's more than one way to have resources. There's more than one way. I tell people all the time, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So horrible analogy, and you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Is is there's you have to decide. And I was tired of being told you didn't qualify for this or you didn't qualify for that, right? And when I did qualify, um, it was a godsend that first year. And it was so funny because the reason why I qualified for more than, just a few dollars is because I all of a sudden had no job, right? That's how I qualified. I had no job. And using that to my advantage, making the decision, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to use this to my advantage to move me forward. And then strategically using each thing. Now, on this other side of that shitstorm, I'm a successful business owner of 8 years as of October the 17th of 2024. Yay! I made it through the first 3 years that most women don't make it through. I made it through the first 5 years. The next hurdle, as so many people say, is the first 10 years after the 10 years. And I, honestly, there are a lot of people who banked out on their seventh year. I know several people who quit in 2024, and I could have very easily done that. And I was like, no, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And plus, my girls don't want me to go back to corporate. They like me being home. And I know I'm supposed to be doing this. And on the other side of that, with my business, what I'm doing is I'm a fractional CFO, which helps women entrepreneurs take their money, build that money roadmap so they know what the hell's going on with their money, so they don't feel like they're on this never ending shit show or never ending hamster wheel. And they don't feel like, a lot of times women entrepreneurs feel like they're capped, right? That they're capped at a certain amount and they can't go to build that wealth and expand it and do the impact they want to do. And I showed them that they can. And it doesn't matter if you came from it or not. I didn't come from it. I have more money now, even through my toughest year, than I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, it may not be as much as I made the year prior. It's still more than what I had 8, 10, 12 years ago, right? And so now what I do is I work with the women entrepreneurs, helping them be able to change their relationship with money, look at how they're managing it, and be able to not only create but also retain and expand that wealth, and change their mindset and change their outlook on it. My mission, and I've told you this, my mission through now being on the other side of that shitstorm, my mission is, and my passion is, to be able to help and support as many women as possible to be able to stay on their own 2 feet, whether they need to or not. Knowing that they can, and changing that relationship with money is what's going to change the world and change and be able to help us impact, make a bigger impact, and be able to help more people.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you bring on subjects that most people don't even wrap around money. There's the whole taboo fits you perfectly. But I just want to brag for just a moment that I saw a Facebook post and you were lifting or championing a client of yours that had saved $30,000. And when I read that, I was mind blown, because I thought, there's proof right there that your money mindset mapping works. And like you said, if you work the program, if you stick with it, if you hang in there. And the first part of that if is to knock the if out and do the work. Step in, take action, and keep taking action. Sure, we may step back a little bit, and that's fine. But what's the end goal? And who wouldn't want to save that amount of money? Maybe that was a goal specific for that client. Maybe your next client is, I want to save, $5,000, or I want to pay off credit card debt. Are those things that you help clients with as well, as far as mapping out their goals?
Yeah, and this particular client, what it was is we were able to look at her expenses, and we were able to negotiate something, and I was able to help her negotiate that to where she saved $30,000 in 2025, a total of $83,000 over the course of 5 years. And that was a huge thing. It basically helped put her even more in the green, and I've helped her strategically change her business model to where it's more streamlined, so that she's able to pay her people more, and she's also able to pay herself more. And so as a fractional CFO, if you come to me and you say, I have debt and I own my own business, I want to be able to pay this debt off, then first thing we're going to do is we're going to build the money roadmap. You can't do anything without knowing where your money is going. And for reference, that client has been with me now for like 5.5 years. So when she first came to me, she was upside down in the red. And within a year, we got her back into the green. And then COVID happened. We all know what COVID did. And so it took a little, we had to pivot, and we had to do a lot of navigating. And then after COVID, we realized, okay, this isn't how she really wants to do the business. And so we've tweaked it and changed it. And she wasn't completely in the red, but she wasn't really, it was no longer aligned. And so we've been changing it. And then in changing that, we looked at things and said, okay, what can we shift? What would we be able to negotiate? And one of the things that I was able to help her look at and shifting and negotiate was, what came about was saving that 30,000 in 2025, and then a total 83,000 over the next 5 years between 2025 and 2030, which is huge, right? And we celebrated big time. And I have another client who wanted to pay off debt. And so we build the money roadmap, and then we listed all of the debt. Again, no judgment. I've had it. My business has debt now. Okay. Sometimes businesses carry debt. That's just the way it works. Um, and then we look at, okay, what can we tackle first? Are we tackling the business debt first, or are we tackling the personal debt? Or if you don't have business debt and you have the personal debt, okay, which is the best way to go to tackle it? And we choose together, and I help you create that plan. And then we go and do the plan. And then having a fractional CFO with that helps because, like Jennifer said, life happens and sometimes it's going to knock you a few steps back, right? But as my coach says, the only way you fail is if you quit. The only way what you're doing, the only way I fail in my business, right? Even if there's tough times, the only way I fail is if I quit. The only way you fail at changing your relationship with money, the only way you fail at paying the debt off or whatever it is you're doing to grow your business is if you quit. If you don't
I would
quit,
like to add to that because you said a couple of times over we negotiated. And what I hear when you say that is ask. And that's
mhm,
using your voice again, speaking
mhm,
unapologetically. And I'll use healthcare as an example. Those medical bills that are piling up, and maybe insurance is paid, or maybe you don't have insurance. And so you have this other out of pocket expense. I don't know how much of common knowledge it is that you as a patient can call and ask for a reduction of that bill. And most of the
especially
time,
at
you're going to
especially at
receive it.
hospitals, especially at
Yes.
hospitals. So many people are afraid to say, to ask that, especially at hospitals. And that's one of the first things I'll tell them. And, yeah, we negotiate. I mean, it was back and forth negotiating. We negotiated. It was a rent. It was a commercial property rent. And I'm happy to say that what came out negotiating is even at 2030, her rent will still be less than what she's paying right now.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
Isn't
how
that
we worked with someone, and
amazing?
we all 3 worked as a team, and I strategically looked at it and said, "No, you know what? You need it to be lower than this, or, just tell them that you'll move somewhere because this isn't gonna work." And it was back and forth, I think 3 or 4 times, and then it came back, and she's like, "Okay, Lisa, this is the final numbers." And I ran the numbers, and I said, "Okay, you know what? This can work because this is where we're gonna be saving, and this is how much you're gonna end up saving." And it was done. So when she renews, which starts in February of 2025, the rent goes down so much. Over 5 years, she's saving $83,000. And at the end of the 5 years, her rent will be less than what she's paying now.
And that is the
Opening
power
your
of a
mouth and
coach.
saying something.
Yes, and having the backup, leaning in and saying, "You know
Mhm.
what? I don't have the knowledge of this money piece, so I'm leaning into Lisa as a coach." And you're there encouraging, "Nope, this isn't going to work." Because how many times have we in life just again received something and, "Okay, we'll give you a little, 10 or 15 discount." Okay, we're happy with that. But having the power of a coach behind you when you're making these and it's life changes, because this isn't something that we're going to just fix in one scenario. Like you said, she's been with you for 5 years. It
Mhm.
takes a while to go through the process. So you have to be open minded and vulnerable. You have to be willing to have that hard conversation. You have to be willing to stand up for yourself. But you have to also say, like Lisa's encouraging, "No, that's not going to work. I need you to do more."
Mhm.
And to get yourself in the right set, are you willing to do more? Lisa,
Mhm.
I so appreciate you sharing
Thank
your
you.
struggle with money and owning it and saying, "You know what? I'm making this change and now I'm
Mhm.
going to help others with it." Those listening probably want to talk to you about some of the things that they're experiencing, especially the last couple of months. It seems like everybody's budget has got really tight and
Yep.
things have gone extremely expensive. That $100 we used to be able to spend on groceries isn't quite cutting it anymore. That's a few
No.
nights meals now, right? So for those of
It's
you,
not quite cutting it at all.
not at all, not at all. So for those of you that maybe have a struggle with money, and maybe it's just the start, maybe you've got, like she said, that large credit card bill, and you want to work with Lisa, how can they reach out to you? And know that we'll share your contact information in the show notes as well. But how can those that want your services or to speak with you, schedule a one-on-one or whatever it is they may need, how can they contact you?
You can easily go to my website, thesassywealthcoach.com. You can find me on Facebook, and you can send me a private message. Let me know that you saw it here on this podcast. I'm easily found. I'll make sure I give you the links for my personal and the business for Facebook. And I'll also give the link for a wealth creation call. That's a free 30-minute call. It's also on my website where you can book it. And again, that's a free 30-minute call to where we can talk and, see if we're a good fit to work together. You can also find me in my free group. I have a free Facebook group, a community that's called the Wealth Queen Collective. And that is for, women entrepreneurs and business owners who are wanting to change their relationship with money, which means not your mindset, but also how you manage it. They're wanting to create and retain and expand that wealth. And we just started that community not long ago. And so it's building, and I'm in there and I do lives, and you can find me in any of those places.
I appreciate you so much. I know you are just going to build a empire of millionaire women. I see it. I'm speaking it out, and that's where
You
we're
go
going with
go
it.
right ahead. Yes, ma'am. We are. We're and you and I are going to be doing things too. And it's gonna be. This is my passion. I want. I don't want money to be a taboo subject. And another place that you can find me is also my podcast, which is called Cash and Sass. And it is exactly what I say it is. It's cash and sass. It's candid conversations. We're kicking money taboo to the curb. Nothing is off the table. And so the topics range from one end to the other, and they all, however they form, if they affect money, then they're not off the table. And
Well, I just want to say thank you one last time for
Thank you.
coming on today and walking us through. We all have that feeling of shit of not having money, but now we have a resource to help us. So, one last thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You just took another step towards owning your story and thriving against all odds. This is Affirm That Shit. Somehow, I thrived. If you're ready to keep kicking ass, subscribe now and let's keep breaking barriers together. Remember, life's a battle, but somehow you'll thrive.